preface this by saying I've got a ton going on right now. I'm basically working 50 hours a week, and I made the grave mistake, because I'm not psychic, of checking out like 7 books. I checked out these books, and then I got an internship, and then I got a job, and it was like, what? So I am really trying to get through these books, meaning I'm doing 2 in a row. So if you see this video, and then you see another video, and you're like, she looks exactly the same, that's why. And also, if I'm a little dusty, you can't tell, but I'm living in a construction zone right now. I did dust my bookshelves for you, so woohoo for me. Woo-wee. Life is a little bit crazy. I know I'm generally crazy, so you'll probably never notice a difference in my review, but there you have it. That said, I am really disappointed to tell you that I did not like today's book. I thought it was a super amazing premise, which, if you've seen enough of these videos, is a common theme for me. I pick up a book like we all do because it sounds super interesting. But then, at least for me, they tend to fall flat. Like I said, I checked out about 7 books so far. I'm on my 3rd. And ooh, dust. Ooh, excuse me. And so far, the 3rd one is the only one that I've liked. So, right. Today's book is In 27 Days by Alison Gervais. What really impresses me about this book is she was a Wattpad writer, and I'm guessing this is the book that got her discovered off Wattpad. And that's what every writer wants. Like, I don't know what her goal was. I think it was like 2011 when all of that happened. So I don't think Wattpad is or was then what it is today, where it's a legitimate platform. I'm really impressed that she wrote something that it got enough views that she got herself an agent and published. But on the same token, I can tell it was a Wattpad book, which, if you've seen any of my other reviews, you know I've discussed self-publishing, and despite the fact that she got an editor and an agent and has been traditionally published, like, it's like with Twilight, where I don't understand what they did to improve the book, because I felt like it needed vast amounts of improvement. Let me tell you what the book is about before I go on my freight train of meandering ideas. 27 Days is about a teenage girl named Hadley whose classmate Archer commits suicide. She goes to his funeral and she runs into Death, who gives her the opportunity to go back in time and convince Archer not to kill himself. Hence 27 days. 27 days ago was when he first entertained the idea of killing himself. So, like, guys, that's a really great idea. I wish I'd thought of it, and now that I've read it, and I wish it had been done differently, maybe I will. Probably will never publish it because of copyright infringement, but it's fantastic. Who doesn't love the idea of turning back the hands of time, you know? My problem came in, so it's not so much that Hadley didn't know Archer and showed up at his funeral. When I was a teenager, someone I went to church with died. I didn't know him. He went to a different high school, but it greatly affected me because he was so young. So I understand why somebody would go to a funeral for a virtual stranger. My problem kind of came in after she makes her deal with Death and sets about trying to convince Archer otherwise. Okay, I'm trying to collect my thoughts and really decide where to start. The thing is, like, I understand how awkward it would have to be to insert yourself into a stranger's life. So I don't know, I should know, but I don't know, because let me tangent for a second. I think I got halfway. but there is a good bit of skimming, probably between the 25% mark and the halfway mark, just because the writing was not engaging. But that said, my point is, I don't know how long they'd been going to school together. It was probably in there somewhere. What I do remember is that she has been aware of him since freshman year. And now it is junior year, I think. Possibly senior year. Again, forgive me, but I'm trying to get through all these books. And when a book doesn't interest me, it's really hard to remember the details. Hadley is aware of Archer. She thinks he's cute, actually, but they're in different social circles. He's not really a social guy, period. So, how do you go from when they had whatever class, I think it was English, they had freshman English together and they were paired together a project, barely spoke to each other, and then haven't spoken to each other in years. How do you go from that to, hey, I'm your best friend, I'm gonna save your life? Like, I get it. That is super awkward. It's super difficult. But I didn't really understand her approach, because it was almost like she just jumped in head first. There was no tact involved, and maybe I would have done the same thing. I have less than a month. I'm probably gonna hop on it. But at the same time, you gotta think, Archer's a loner. He has no friends. Oh, I mean, obviously that's kind of what a loner means, but literally, it's not just that he is antisocial and, like, has one or two friends. Like, he has no friends. Do you really expect him to just be like, all right, someone wants to be my friend? Especially someone who's from a different social circle. Just as he was, which I really enjoyed his reaction. I liked that he wasn't like, yes, okay. I liked that he was skeptical, that he was kind of like, am I a joke? Am I a pet project? I liked that he didn't just let her jump in and they were besties. That he kind of gave it a trial run, that he made her gain his trust. But I was, just from the onset, I was not convinced about Hadley's approach. And then in line with that, I didn't quite, like, I never connected with her. I never quite understood her motivation. I mean, the obvious motivation is to save Archer's life. But I never got in her head. I never really figured out what she wanted. And that was a huge problem for me, because it was like laser focus. It's like, this is the only thing that matters, and therefore, I'm not going to have any personality. None of this is going to be about me. And she actually admits that. At some point, they're talking about themselves. They're kind of opening up, and she realizes this whole time it's been about Archer, about getting to know Archer, about injecting herself into Archer's life, and not really letting him into hers. Oh my gosh. Ooh, it's like, it's just in the air. Maybe I shouldn't have dusted before this. Maybe I made it worse. So I guess at some point, the author Alison realized we're not being let into Hadley's life either. We know that her parents are pretty neglectful, and that she spends a whole lot of time alone. That her friends are virtually her family, but at the same time, like, it's over the Thanksgiving holiday, and none of her friends say, hey, come hang out with us and be with us for Thanksgiving. So there are aspects of her life that we are seeing are lacking. But I never felt like I really knew how she felt, knew where she was coming from, knew what she wanted. It just felt like, to me, Alison took a wooden stick to my head and was just beating me over the head with, gotta save Archer, gotta save Archer, gotta save Archer. Nothing about Hadley. And that's a problem. At least for me. You can disagree. I'll be okay with that. Let's get into some spoilers. Eventually, Havoc, so we have Death, and then we have Havoc. So I don't really know at what point Havoc is really introduced. All I know is that when I skip to the end of the book to see how it ends, Havoc steps in and basically causes Hadley's death. And then Hadley meets up with Death, and Death is like, yes, you are dead, but you have a choice. She chooses to live. Part of her problem or her questioning is, well, technically I died before the 27 days were up, so what does that mean for Archer? Did I succeed in saving Archer, or will Archer still continue with his plan? And Death is like, well, you know, as soon as you signed the contract, everything that happened prior was erased. So life started over when I sent you back. So you made the changes that caused him to change his mind. Obviously, let her in. He started to care for her. I think in the last chapter / epilogue, whichever one it was, they are dating. So there you go. She saves his life. She doesn't die. And they lived happily ever after. I guess she also has a new outlook on life because she's not nearly as self-consumed as she once was. And there you go. Before I talk about more things that I didn't like, let me talk about things I do like, because I feel like I'm so mean about these books. Like, I never really say anything good, and that pains me. It really does, especially because something like In 27 Days, I really do respect this author. I guess I just have higher standards, and so I didn't like it. But there's a lot of things that I thought could have been done better, and those are the things that I'm going to talk about. But I respect her, and there are things she did well. For one, maybe I would have picked up on this if I'd read the book cover to cover. However, I didn't. It didn't hit me until Hadley dies and Death is like, you know why I chose you? I chose you because you were essentially in the same state Archer was. You were completely alone, but you just didn't know it. And you were alone in a different way. Because as I had mentioned, Hadley's parents are unattentive. They are so focused on work that they pay no attention to her. Even though she has her group of friends, she still feels alone. She doesn't feel like she has a person. She doesn't feel like she has a family. And so I really loved that point where I was like, holy cow, you know what? She didn't see it. I didn't see it. A lot of people don't see their circumstances. They don't see the truth behind their own lives. It's easy to pick out the loner and say, oh, he's lonely. But we don't always look at ourselves and have the same realization because we've filled our lives with other things. She'd filled her life with school, friends, and wealth that she has. She just hadn't really realized what she was missing until she meets Archer and she's allowed into his family and into the warmth that they provide. I thought that was really great because I love being surprised. I love when somebody hits me not over the head with a wooden stick, but just hits me with a truth that I was like, it's been staring at me in the face the whole time, but I couldn't see the forest through the trees. So I really loved how there really was a reason that Death chose her, and it was because she and Archer were the same. Along those lines, I loved Archer's family. I thought his little sister Rosie, I think she's 5, a bit stereotypical. But aside from Rosie, I love the dynamic with his mother. I thought his grandmother was hilarious because she had a stroke at some point and it pretty much knocked out that part of her brain that filtered anything, so she just said what she wanted and she didn't care. And I thought that was hilarious because in this book in life, where people are too afraid to say what they think because of whatever might happen, she's just like, nuh-uh. And she was a breath of fresh air. I really love seeing how warm Archer's family was and how accepting they were and just how important family was to them. And also how that played off of Archer. Because I'm not completely convinced about his reasonings for being a loner, for rejecting friendship, for being, I don't want to say a tough character, because that was a front. The way he interacted with his family, and especially the way he cared for his sister, showed you he's got a heart of gold. He's a teddy bear. But, so the thing is, here's, spoiler 1.7, I don't know. Archer's dad was not a good dude. He got his mother pregnant when she was a teenager. They tried to make it work. It didn't. They divorced, but he was still obsessed, essentially, with his mother, with Archer's mother. And then Archer's mother remarried, had Rosie, and then Archer's father was so unhappy about this that he murdered Archer's stepfather. So now, the one man that Archer really saw as a father figure is dead, and Archer's dad's in prison. I guess the whole deal is it's made Archer have to grow up faster than he should, that he has had to deal with things that he shouldn't have had. I'm not disputing that. I'm really not. But how often have we seen that? And I just wonder, can a person really go through life? Granted, he has his family, but can a person really go through life without any friends? Can a person really walk down the hallway, go to lunch, sit in a classroom before the bell rings and have nobody to interact with? And so I just thought it was a bit much. But let's go back to his family. So I loved how the family and the warmth of the family was juxtaposed with Archer's hardness. Just like with Hadley, it's the opposite, where she was a lot warmer and her family was incredibly cold. I enjoyed every scene that I got with Archer's family. Not necessarily Archer, because he was super grumpy. I didn't connect with him either. I really didn't connect with any of the characters, except for Archer's mother and grandmother. Sorry, I've got stuff all over me. I should not wear black when it's dusty. Sorry, I'm totally off topic. But yeah, I thought that was really successful. Like I said, Rosie felt super stereotypical. So a lot of times when an author wants to write a close-knit, loving family, it comes off like a Hallmark movie, and Hallmark movies make me want to gag, alright? But I thought she did such a good job in portraying what Hadley is missing out on, and how much she didn't realize she was missing out on it. So, here's a little heart for you, Alison Gervais. Now back to the bad stuff. Let's talk about the writing. If the book had been written better, if it had been better executed, I would not have had a problem with Hadley. I would not have had a problem with Archer. I would have gotten through the entire thing. But it felt pretty immature. And in that, it was slow. Which doesn't really make sense. Hadley just jumps in head first. But even in that, I didn't really understand what was the purpose. Like, why were we seeing certain things, or really what was Hadley doing to fulfill her goal? They eat lunch together, but they don't do anything. They just sit at the table. Like, I want to see them interacting. I want to see them bonding. So, we have this super lackluster lunch, which maybe the whole point of the lunch is so that the mean guy in school can come and tease them and can cause some tension between them, and then can be the one to reveal Archer's past, because Hadley doesn't know Archer. She knows nothing about him except he has amazing eyes and he's really tall. And so maybe that's the reason we have lunches where Hadley and Archer do nothing but, like, eat. And then we fast forward and Hadley tells us about what they've done, or she tells us about how she feels they've made progress. And I'm like, but I want to see your progress. I don't want the two of them to waste 2 days because the mean guy says something, Hadley stands up for Archer, and then Archer gets offended and ignores her for 2 days. I mean, of course, it does help in compressing that timeline because that's 2 days that Hadley has missed and she has to make up for. But I'm just like, I want forward momentum, and I'm not getting any. And then I also would have liked to seen her with her friends, because obviously her new focus on Archer is going to affect her friendships, which are kind of the nucleus of her being. Like, they are what hold her together in a life where she has no home, you know, no family. And so we get a couple scenes with her best friend and maybe other friends where they're like, what are you doing with this guy? And, you know, they're all just, they all suspect that she has a crush on him. And I'm like, you know what? Just say yes. Instead of being awkward and be like, oh, no. Like, just be like, yeah. You know, if that's the easiest explanation, just say, yeah, I like him. Why does she have to keep denying it? There are just a handful of scenes where her friends are, and of course, this is coming from a girl who did not read the whole thing. But in the beginning, which is the most important part, we don't get much with her friends. Then there's one scene where, not even a scene, but it's like the end of a chapter where she's like, oh, I need my friends. So I'm going to text them and say, hey, come on over for Netflix, I'm buying Chinese. But we don't see them. Like, we don't see, and this is where I say I was emotionally disconnected from Hadley, because I don't see her with the important people in her life. I don't see her with the people she can be herself with and just let go. All I do is I see her with Archer, who is basically despondent, and then I see her with her parents who make her feel unloved. I see her like lying on the bed, I don't know, like feeling sorry for herself, trying to figure out what in the world Death wants her to do. So it just all goes back to the writing, where if it had been done better, I think Hadley would have been more effective. But what you gonna do? That's about it. Honestly, because I didn't really read the book, there's not a whole lot I can say about what she did in the book. It's just one of those instances where I didn't try. I have too many other possibilities, too much other stuff, too many other obligations to force myself to read something I didn't care about. So it's, even though I didn't like it, obviously all of her Wattpad fans did, so I'd say sure, check it out. If you're looking for a really well-developed novel, something that's really well plotted and well written, don't. You know, it's not a sweet enough little romance to try to read something that is basically below your reading level. But, you know, if you like Wattpad writers, this could definitely be something that you'd be interested in. If you're a teenage girl, this could definitely be something that you're interested in, because it is a romance and it's pretty light reading. Despite the fact that Hadley is essentially racing against time to save someone's life, it's not hard-hitting stuff. You know, it's not War and Peace. It's not Anna Karenina. I can never pronounce that. I'm sorry. I know I'm a writer and I was an English minor. But that's just one name I've never been able to pronounce. Let's see. Hey, how about this? It's not Jane Eyre, right? Yeah. Well, there we go. So, check it out if you enjoy Wattpad writers. Check it out if anything I've said has piqued your interest. But if I would rate it, if I would give it stars, I'd probably give it 2.5 out of 5. And I'm being generous. There you go. On to my next one. Bye!